Alright, in this lecture, we're going to go ahead and do a character design, and we're going to create this character out of super simple geometric shapes, just like we did in our last video lecture. And then we're going to take those shapes and turn them into organic shapes, and then add detail on top of that. So let's go ahead and get started. So I'm going to start off by making a square for my character's head, like so, and then I want to make a rectangle for his body, or her body. I'm not sure whether it's going to be a he or a she yet. And then I want to create the legs for my character, so I want to first off create one character or rectangle like so, and then I'll make a triangle coming off like so for the calf, and then I'll do the other leg, so I'll do one rectangle like so, and then another triangle like so, and then I'm going to add in some sort of a feet, so maybe some sort of a small rectangle. And next, I'm going to go ahead and add in the arm. So my arm is going to be like this, and then a triangle. And then we'll have another one on this side, and it's going to be lugging along a sword. So I'm going to have a rectangle for the handle right there, and then I'll have one big rectangle that will be the sword blade. But for now, I'm just going to leave it as one big rectangle. So there are our basic shapes. I'm going to bring my square head down just a little bit to about there. And this is why we do it in blue, is so that it's a lot lighter so we can make changes later. Next, let's go ahead and add in some more detail. So I'm going to add in the neck. Then let's go ahead and smooth the shape out of the torso so it's not just a square block. We'll add in some more detail onto the hands. And then we want to add in more detail on the character's face. So I'm going to start off by adding some ears, and then I'll add an ear over here. And then I want to round off the top of the head a bit, just like so. And I'm going to keep the bottom part very square. Then let's go ahead and fatten this rectangle up a little bit more so it looks more like a leg. And then I can bring her legs more up into her body shape. Then let's go ahead and shape this sword blade out. So it's going to come down like this. The ground will be about there. So I'm going to slice it off right there. And then I'll add another slice right there. So now we're getting more of a sword shape. Then I'm going to put a line right down the middle. So that's one plane, and then that's the other plane. And then we can add in the guard on the sword. Great. Next, let's go ahead and add in a little bit more detail onto the face. So I'm going to add an eye right there and one right there. Just very simple shapes. And then I'm going to add in some hair. So I'm going to add in some bangs first. And then I'm going to go ahead and add in some pigtails. So that will be one bunch of hair going into one ponytail or pigtail. And pigtails are basically just going to be circles or ovals. And then off of those, you're going to add a little bit of a curl coming off of it, or a curve. Just like so. Great. Now let's go ahead and grab our dark pencil and add in some more detail and solidify these lines. So first off, I'm going to go ahead and ground off my character by adding a shadow underneath her. So I might add in a little bit more. And then I want to start with her face. So I want to create this shape right there, and I'm going to round off that jaw just a little bit since she's a girl. And then I'm going to go ahead and add in some eyelashes onto her eyes. And then we can go ahead and add in her bottom eyelashes, just like so. And now I want to add in her eyes. So I'm going to add in one right there, and then I'm going to add in another one right there. And then I can go ahead and fill those in, and leaving a small little spot for a reflection. And then I'm going to go ahead and do her nose. So it's just going to be a small little circle oval, like so. And then her mouth is just going to be a small little line. Now let's go ahead and move on to the eyebrows. And then we can go ahead and do her hair. So it's just going to be a simple half circle, and we'll add some lines in there to show each individual hair. So there are her bangs. And now let's go ahead and add in these pigtails. So the first one's going to go right here, and then we can go ahead and add in that ear. And again, I'm not trying to make a perfect character right now. I'm just trying to demonstrate to you guys how shapes are used to create characters. I'll go ahead and add a circle right there. Add in those hairlines. And even these hairlines are cross-contouring lines. And then I'll add a little bit of a blush on her cheeks. Maybe a little bit across her nose too. And then I'm going to go ahead and add in her neck. And then I'll go ahead and add in her body. And I'm trying to think of what type of costume I want her to be wearing. I think she's going to be wearing a big sweatshirt. So I'm going to go ahead and add that in. So there's her neckline. And then there's the bottom of her sweatshirt. There's the band on her sweatshirt. And then it's going to come up into her sleeves, which are going to be really big and puffy, like so. I'll add another one right there. And then there'll be a band on the arms or the wrists. Then we'll have her hands that are holding the sword. Then let's go ahead and draw in the sword guard. So I'll add that in right there. And then we have the shape of our blade. So we'll go ahead and draw that in. And whoops, I got that off just a little bit, so I need to fix that. And then I'm going to go ahead and darken in this bottom area, since it's probably in shadow. And then let's go ahead and add in her pants. So I'll go ahead and darken those lines. Very simple, straight lines. And then I'm going to add in a little bit more of a calf in there by popping out that back a little bit more. And then her feet are going to be really simple. I'm not going to get into too much detail with her shoes. They're just going to be very small. So you'll also notice that there's a lot of different line quality in here, especially on the eyes and her eyebrows. They have different thicknesses. And different parts of her hair can have different line quality also. We can also go ahead and trace out the entire outside shape of her, which would be her contouring lines, which goes all the way around her form. This will make her stand out a lot more. And you'll see this a lot in cartoons where they'll outline the entire outside of a character. Especially on the sword, we want it to stand out a lot. And then we can even add in some values in there, which you'll learn about here in the next few lectures. But for now, let's just go ahead and fill those in. So we have a couple of different values in our drawing. And I might add some cross-contouring lines right there. And you'll notice that my cross-contouring lines on my sleeve and the form of my torso are going in different directions because they're creating that form of her body and arm. Then lastly, I'm going to go ahead and darken in her feet to a nice black. All right, cool. So now we have a really awesome character design. And as you can see, these are just broken down into very simple shapes. And then we built it up from there. So every time you're trying to create a character design, just go with your ideas. And once you have an idea in mind, just try drawing it with these simple shapes before you do anything else. This is going to make your character designs look way, way better. That brings us to the end of this lecture. I really hope you learned something from this, and I really look forward to seeing you in the next lecture where we're going to learn about form. Alright, in this lecture, we're going to go over form and how to use it. So what is form? Well, form is just adding a 3-dimension to a 2D object. So for example, let's draw a square. So this square right here is a 2D object. It only has 2 dimensions. But we can add a 3rd dimension to that, or at least the illusion of a 3rd dimension, by creating it into a cube. So to do that, all we have to do is draw lines coming off of each corner, like so. And then we just need to connect each one of those lines. And now we have a simple isometric cube. So we just added form to that. Let's try another shape. Let's say we wanted to create form in a cone. Well, what we'd have to do is we need to first draw the base, which is going to be an oval. Because this is going to be a circle base and it's going to be in perspective, if we have a circle like this and we're looking at it from this view, you see how it turns into an oval? That's perspective. So let's go ahead and draw the peak of our cone, just like so, and then we'll draw that rounded bottom like so. So now we have a cone and that has some form to it because we can see that bottom edge. Next, let's try a pyramid. So a pyramid is going to have a square or rectangular base. So let's go ahead and sketch out that rectangular base. So let's say the rectangular base is like so. And then we need to draw our first surface. So our first surface is going to be like this. So from one corner to the other, and then connect at the top. And then we can connect it at the bottom. And then the other one is going to go ahead and connect up to the top like so. So now we have a very basic pyramid. Now, what if we wanted to create a random sort of organic shape? So let's say we wanted a shape like this. So I'm going to go ahead and quickly draw a shape. Now, how can we add form to that? Well, it's just like adding form to the cube. We just want to draw a line coming off of each one of these corners. Like so. And then we're going to connect all these lines. But when we connect them all, our line or our shape on this side has to match this edge right here. So first we'll do this one. And then this is a solid object, so you're not going to see this line continue because it's covered up by this area. And we'll go ahead and draw a line there, a line there, a line there, and a line there. And so now we just added form to that shape. Now, what if it was an organic shape? So let's say we have a very random squiggly shape like so, and we want to add some form to that. Well, all we have to do is have a line coming off there, a line coming off there, and then we're not going to have a line coming off over here because we're seeing the top of that. Over here, we're actually seeing the edge of that shape. Then we're going to go ahead and add a line there, and we'll add a little bit of a line in there, and then one right there. And then, whoops, I went over a little bit right there. Then we can go ahead and we want to copy this shape like we did on this. We want to copy this edge over onto this edge. So we'll copy that shape right there. And we'll copy this edge also. Perfect. All right, so now you should have a pretty good idea of how to add form to your shapes. But this is very basic form. What if we wanted to change things up a little bit? Like, let's say we wanted to see these from a different angle. So with our cube, let's say we wanted to see it from more of a top view. Well, what we need to do is we need to stretch this top plane out a little bit more so that we see more of that top plane and a little bit less of this front plane. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and draw our front plane first, but it's going to be very, very slightly squished. So a little bit less than a square and a little bit more of a rectangle. Then we're going to take this form right here and we're going to stretch that out by a lot. So we'll stretch it out like so. And then we can go ahead and draw this edge or this plane like so. So now we're getting a lot more of a top view on that cube. What if we wanted to see more of a top view on this cone? Well, what we need to do is we need to stretch this base out. So right now, imagine if we have a circle and we're looking at it from that view. If we want to see it at more of a top view, we just need to turn that circle down a little bit more. So this needs to become a more pulled out oval. So let's go ahead and draw that. So we'll draw that like so. And then let's go ahead and draw in the triangle part of our cone. And then we'll go ahead and draw our bottom round edge. And so now you get the illusion that you're getting more of a top-down view of this cone. Let's try this pyramid. So let's say that we want to see a more top-down view of this pyramid. Well, we go ahead and we draw that square base, but with more of a top-down view. So it's just like the circle. If you can make a square with your hands, let's say you're looking at it from a view like this, and then we're going to go ahead and we're just going to move that down so that we can see it from more of a top-down view. That's all we're doing with this square base. So next what we want to do is we want to add in that first plane like so, and then we'll add in that second plane, and then we'll add in that bottom. So now we're getting much more of a top-down view on that pyramid. Now, what if we wanted to turn something? So let's say this shape right here, let's say we wanted to turn it a little bit more to the left, well, or the right. Well, all we have to do is we just have to squish this shape right here and then pull these out further. So let me show you what I mean. So first, let's redraw this base shape. And we want to, like I said, squish it So we're going to make this part right here skinnier. We're going to make this part skinnier, like so. So now we have a lot more squished type of a shape like that. And then we're going to go ahead and take these lines and draw these out a little bit longer. So we're going to draw them out to about there, and this one to about there, this one to there. And I didn't copy the shape over perfectly, but it gets the idea across. Like so. So now you're getting a lot more of a side view of this shape. What if we wanted to tilt a shape forward, like this shape? Well, this will be a little bit more complicated, but it can still be done. So let's go ahead and draw the shape, but you have to imagine the shape as though its surface is being tilted forward like so, and so it's going to become a lot more squashed in the diagonal angle. So let's go ahead and draw this. So first, starting with this little loop right here, I'm going to go ahead and draw that right there, and then I'll do this loop right here, and this one is actually going to just get squashed in this way rather than this way. And then we'll go ahead and do this one. This one will get squashed like so. And then this one is going to stay wider like this one over here. And then we can go ahead and draw our lines, but we're going to make them go up more because it's being tilted forward. So these lines are going to become more diagonal. So they're going to almost be straight up. And we'll go ahead and complete these edges. Like so, and then we'll connect those two lines also. So now you get a lot more of a tilted view of this shape. So I really hope you guys are starting to get a really good idea of how form works. Now let's go ahead and draw an object from real life and try to capture its form. So I have my eraser here, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to flip my paper over, and I'm going to set my eraser right here in front of me, and I'm going to draw it for you guys, okay? So first off, I'm noticing that there's this bottom line, so I'm going to go ahead and draw that bottom diagonal line like so. And then the shape of the eraser is the first thing we want to do. So I'm going to draw the side view of it. So it goes up like this, and this side does the same thing. And then it connects over like so. And then it connects like this. And this might actually not be the best view of the eraser, so I'm going to try a different one. I'm going to turn my eraser and try this view. So I'm going to start off with my diagonal line, and then I'm going to draw my two other diagonal lines like so, and create that basic shape of my eraser. Then I'm going to go ahead and draw my lines going off in the opposite direction. And I'll just connect all these lines, and as you see, that is the very basic shape of my eraser. If I wanted to, I can go ahead and round off all these corners, since an eraser usually has pretty rounded corners because it's all used up. And then I can even take my eraser and go ahead and erase away these unwanted areas. Remember not to push too hard if you want to erase. This is why I always recommend that you start out drawing lighter and then move to darker colors. So there's the basic form from a real-life object. Now, one last thing I want to go over with you guys before the end of this lecture is I want to go over with you form in a sphere. So a sphere is just a ball, and basically a sphere is just going to be a circle. Without any highlights or shadows, you're not going to know the difference between a circle and an actual sphere. So let's say that we have our circle right here. And now there are no edges that you can add to this circle. So there's no way to really show that this is an actual three-dimensional form without adding highlights or shadows to it. But in the next lecture, we're going to go ahead and learn how to add highlights and shadows to our forms to make them look 10 times more realistic. Alright, that brings us to the end of this lecture. So in this lecture, you learn how to turn shapes into three-dimensional forms. So we learned how to make a cube, which can also be translated into a rectangular cube if you stretch these lines out in either direction. We also learned how to create a cone. We learned how to create a pyramid, a random shape, and an organic shape. Then we learned how to redraw these at different angles. This is very important when you're drawing out of your head, is to understand how to draw things in different angles. And the more you draw from life, the more you're going to understand perspective and how to draw from those different angles. In the next lecture, we're going to go ahead and learn how to add in those highlights and shadows. Thanks for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next lecture.